The 2018 Parkland shooter, Nikolas Cruz, pled guilty today to murder and apologized for carrying out the high school massacre. Cruz entered a guilty plea to all 34 charges related to the Marjory Stoneman Douglas High massacre, 17 counts of first-degree murder and 17 counts of attempted first-degree murder. Cruz then asked to address the victims.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I will do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day. And it brings me nightmares, and I can't live with myself sometimes, but I try to push through because I know that's what you guys would want me to do. I hate drugs, and I believe this country would do better if everyone would stop smoking marijuana and doing all these drugs and causing racism and violence out in the streets. I'm sorry, and I can't even watch TV anymore. And I'm trying my best to maintain my composure, and I just want you to know I'm really sorry. And I hope you give me a chance to try to help others. If I believe it's your decision to decide where I go and whether I live or die. Not the jury's. I believe it's your decision. I'm sorry.
ABC's Victor Akendo has been following this story for us since 2018. He was there today. He's live outside the Broward County, Florida courthouse for more. So, Victor, what has been the reaction? You've gotten to know family members and students and activists. What has been the reaction to Cruz's statement when because he surprised everybody. We haven't heard from him when he decided to ask the judge for permission to speak. What have people been telling you?
Gary, it was definitely a surprise to all of us, and in speaking with some of the family members, and from what I've read here, it's different depending on who you ask, right? Someone called it an ugly surprise. You're not really hearing a lot of anyone finding justice in the decision here and him pleading guilty and then moving this to the sentencing phase in this case here. Ultimately, though, the family members today, so many of them had to relive that awful day, hearing those details laid out in painstaking fashion, the way that Nikolas Cruz took an Uber to Marjory Stoneman Douglas High School with the AR-15, with the ammunition, with the jacket, everything in that bag, got into the school and then went classroom by classroom, which classroom was shot into at what time, who was shot at when. It was an incredibly difficult day for so many of the victims, the survivors, and of course the victims' families. Kira?
And Victor, right after that hearing, you were with me as well when I had a chance to speak with Manuel Oliver. You did too, the father of Joaquin Oliver, who was killed in that shooting. And I wanted to know what he thought about the hearing and hearing his son's name and also all the details that were read about that day. Here's what he told us.
I saw my friends, parents of kids, sitting there, crying, holding hands. And I'm thinking that the whole story that I never heard before, by the way, the whole story of the shooting itself, it's bizarre. It is terrible. It's from someone that is really evil. The way that my son was shot, I never heard that. No one told me with details how my son was shot first and then was reshot 2 more times. So maybe he was still alive. That means that he was suffering a lot. I'm glad this happened today. It wakes me up more. My pain is bigger, and that means that I'm gonna do bigger things to change the law. Yes, to change the law by adding bills or by changing the point of view of Americans that cannot stand this way of living. We do not accept this. And trust me, you don't want to be in my shoes right now. None of you want to be interviewed about this topic. I just heard how my son, my 17-year-old son, beautiful son, my best friend, was still alive when he was reshot. And then he bled out and died. That's what I have to say.
Powerful, powerful words. You know, Manuel passionately calling for action on gun control as well. When we talked, something he and other Parkland survivors and families, you know, really pushed into of movement. What do you think about today, Victor, and the impact of what we saw and what we heard? Could this bring new life into that movement?
The survivors, the students who were at school that day and made it out alive, that went on to become so incredibly vocal. They grew up a lot faster than they really needed to, than any teenager should have to, but they went on to start this national movement. Kira, you and I both spoke with David Hogg, one of the founding members of the March for Our Lives movement. He continues pushing for gun reform, and I know how difficult of a topic that is to speak about right now, but he continues pushing for it. But the truth of the matter is that nearly 4 years since the shooting at Parkland, 17 lives lost, another 17 wounded. We still haven't seen any really meaningful change here to gun reform. Back to Manuel Oliver for a second. He really has, you can hear the anger and the pain in his voice, and he's been one who's been able to turn that into his activism. He is an artist. That's his medium. That's what he uses to get his words out there. And just from everything that I heard about his son, Joaquin, from friends, other parents, I mean, he was a beloved student at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High. From what I can tell, he was one of the most popular kids in class. Absolutely adored, and you can still hear that I mean, it's tough not to cry just thinking about the way that Manuel Oliver speaks about his son, Kira.
Well, it was definitely a powerful day and powerful messages across the board. Victor, thank you so much. And of course, we'll continue to follow what happens next if he receives life in prison or the death penalty. Victor, thank you.
Just unbearable to hear those stories.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.